Okay. So, anyone have anything they'd like to share or comment on or ask any questions?
So I know we talked this week about the meridians and the energetic connections being physical but not being physical. And today in the meditation, I was having a gurgly stomach and my neck was bothering me. And when I was doing the movements, when we were connecting the fourth finger through the elbow into the solar plexus, and my elbows are very low, they're down at my hips. And I was wondering, how much is the energetic connection just energetic, and how much does your physicality get involved with your energy flow? The connection just was a little bit broken today, and I was wondering, so where's the physical stop and the energetic begin?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's kind of like asking, where does a river stop and the ocean begin? And it's kind of like asking, where does the atmosphere stop? It's kind of like, like a question about the ecosystem. Like, where does one stop and then the other one, begin? It's like another good question for that. It's kind of like, okay, like if you study the thyroid, you realize the thyroid is actually just about connected to everything. And it's actually connected to the entire endocrine system. And so it's kind of like, almost kind of like saying, where does the function of the thyroid stop and where does it begin? Can you even say that it's actually separate? Like, say for instance, when you say, energy, can you separate out the electromagnetic force from the electricity? So
No, can't.
You can't. Exactly. So, like, I actually didn't say it's physical, but it's not. I didn't say that it's physical and energetic, but not physical, or that it's just energy. I actually am very cautious not to say that, or that it's just energetic, because that's not possible. It's just literally kind of like, it's an impossibility. It's kind of, as you said, it's like trying to connect, or it's trying to distinguish between electricity and electromagnetic force. And then, kind of like, can the electricity flow without a medium, without something physical? So, so it's kind of like a question like that. And the question comes because something is not working and we're trying to simplify it and we're trying to find a simple answer. It's kind of like, nowadays everyone is looking for a simple answer to the health problem, like, just do this. And this is a good one, actually. I think you'd appreciate this. So someone asked me in a class one time, is there something you can do for just 10 minutes, to change your life where you are happy? And I said, that asking me a question like that is kind of asking, if your entire life is catered to train you to be stressful, and you're asking me, can I just do something for 10 minutes to counteract the effects of that? What would you say? And the person's like, oh, it's not possible. Like, if you've been, because it's kind of like the functioning of the body. It's we're actually always cultivating. Actually, one of the reasons, I really like this concept, that it's not that we can stop cultivating. Eh, That that, that does it's not possible. It's actually probably a better way to say that we are always cultivating. The real question is, what are we cultivating? So let's say, for instance, if you're used to looking to the left and you keep looking to the left, then just taking 10 minutes to look to the right, will that counteract the effects of all the times the whole day where you've been looking to the left? Just because you looked to the right for 10 minutes, is that counteract that? And of course, the answer is no. So in the same vein, in that spirit, to answer your question, where does it start, where does it end? It's almost the same thing. You can't distinguish it. You cannot say that it ends here and it starts here. And I think that's actually why it's actually so frustrating, because it's an entire lifestyle and it's an entire approach. And it's actually one of the reasons why, we are taking different points. And that's actually one of the reasons why we're taking an explorative approach where there's no one simple answer. Now, there's some guidelines. Like, say, for instance, empty your mind. When people have found out over the years, from generation that when you empty your mind, you're not caught up so myopically that you can actually perceive better where the imbalance is, because you're more likely to look at the whole. So it's a C bars. The first one is always, consciousness or state, and it basically is, emptiness. So I talk about relative awareness versus absolute awareness, and relative is basically specifically where the balance is off. But in order to resolve that, you need to kind of look at the whole picture, because if you don't look at the whole picture and you just try and resolve that one area, you might actually bring even more imbalance, right? So that's the first one. The second one is called, is what C bars, the breathing, alignment, relaxation, and slow movement. And so what you do is, if something is off, you basically look at those aspects. You look at, okay, is my attention off? Am I too myopic? Am I not focused enough in this area? And so you explore your attention. Number two, you look at your breathing. Where is the breathing not reaching? Where does it flow? Where does it not flow? Number three, alignment. Where does it feel aligned? And where does it feel misaligned? And then relaxation. Where does it feel relaxed? And where does it feel tense? Movement, slow movement. Where is it moving and where is it not moving? Is the movement natural? And so when typically people ask the question that you did, like, where does it start? And something wasn't working. And what I like to say, what I'd say is that you want to go back to the C bars and not try and solve anything and just see what happens. Observation without the evaluation. Again, C, it comes back to C. And then within the specifics, you look at the 4 principles of Qi, which is extend, 1 point, relaxation, and weight underneath. Meaning, as in that particular part, you explore and see wherever you're having a problem, you look at, is it extended? Is there a length? Without forcing it, of course. Is there, when there's length, does it drop? And does it feel relaxed? Meaning, as in, does it feel soft? And can you feel the center of it? And so those are some explorations. And if that doesn't work, then you go into the rest of the principles, which are actually subsets of these, to kind of help you explore further. But it can't, but there's a caveat. A lot of people try and use it as a checklist, and the approach is from a state of problem solving. But the issue is that if you're problem solving, you're already caught up in your brain itself is in scarcity. It's kind of in fear mode. And so because of that, your body's already tense. Most likely, it's like releasing cortisol and other things, just, and you're probably having inflammation from chronic stress. Because typically that's what actually happens. And so whatever problem you're having actually probably got there accumulated over a certain period of time. And you're trying to use, like, for most people, you're trying to use basically a short amount of time to resolve it instead of actually bringing balance to the whole system. Now, there are certain cases where it just gets resolved quickly. Like something is generally out of place and you can adjust it, such as, going to a chiropractor and then resolve it. And that actually works. But even with adjustments, what you'll notice is that the relief oftentimes is temporary if you're dealing with a chronic issue. And you have to get multiple adjustments. And sometimes even that doesn't actually solve it because the actual underlying stress underneath is not solved. And then sometimes actually the adjustments can even aggravate it, right? And so, so to kind of just answer your question, where does it start, where does it end? It's one system, it's tied to your physicality. And when your physical body is off, your chi is going to be off. And when your chi is off, your physical body is going to be off. However, one thing you'll notice is that sometimes the approach is easier to approach from one side rather than the other. So sometimes it's easier to address the energetic than the physical, and sometimes it's easier to address the physical than the energetic. So there's a kind of a path of least resistance. And so the reason we talk about the energetic and the physical is to see what happens to be able to explore what is the path of least resistance here so that we can get to balance in a more natural way instead of being limited to just thinking it's always energetic or being limited to thinking that it's physical. And so, because it's a limitation of the perception that really delays the healing and the progress of the cultivation, actually, because when we say healing, really, strictly speaking, from a Taoist perspective, there's no such thing as healing. There's actually just changing direction of your cultivation. Do you want to cultivate what you've been cultivating so far, or do you want to cultivate something differently? So healing actually is just recognizing that you've been cultivating in the direction that you don't really want to cultivate anymore, and then changing the direction of your cultivation. So does that address your question? I know that I said a whole lot more than the actual question that you asked, which was, where does it start, where does it end? But hopefully I actually addressed the real nature of your question.
That is profound. Thank you, Master Kim.
Well, your response was great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Then I'm going to take that you're satisfied with the answer, and then I can move on to the next comment or question.
Yes, that answered every question that was lingering everywhere in my brain. Thank you, Master Kim.
I'm glad. Okay, very good. Okay, so does anyone else have anything they'd like to share, ask, or comment on?
I had an experience I wanted to share. I typically have felt kind of squirrely during the yoga and was just noticing that today and realizing part of it is that my breath is caught up, and so it feels uncomfortable to be staying in positions where that's highlighted, and my breath has to kind of come to the edge of that and then shift. And then part of it I realized also is I've had pain in my lower back but I realized it wasn't the pain, it was this fear of injuring my hips, which I've done like kind of repeatedly. It's easy to kind of go past the point where it's where they want to be and then get injured. And I realized, oh, it was really just a lot of tension around that. And that's a big part of what's going on in the lower back, which is causing the pain. And so I just was taking also there was too much focus on that, on the pain and the fear of pain. I was like, okay, if I just stay with my breath and have my focus on my breath, then what happens while I'm doing the yoga? Because realizing, oh, my mind had been going into this fear pattern and my body was tensing around it, and it really opened things up. So wanted to share that. Was just a whole, nothing really new. These are things you've been teaching all along, but the combination of them opened things up for me today. And then also in the dantian breathing, I had an experience where I was having wrist pain, and I had been focusing on the space between the front and back walls of the dantian, and it started to feel like there were little dantians in my wrists, and they were breathing the same, like linked to my belly, and the similar feeling of healing that I get in my abdomen with the dantian breathing was extending to them. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing this, because I feel that the more people hear examples of what I've been teaching, I think there's a very big difference between sharing and then teaching. Teaching is information, sharing is an experience. And so I think that actually the more we can share these experiences, I think the more powerful it is. Because, and I think there's also a difference between, the teacher sharing and then a student sharing, because I found that over the years, when a teacher shares, it's actually not uncommon for people to just unconsciously think, oh, that's just a teacher, that's just him. And he or she is the exception to the rule. It's like this doesn't apply to me. But when someone who's still on the path, when a student shares, people tend to listen a bit more closely, because it actually, might apply to them. And so I just wanted to say that I think it's very powerful that you share. And I think what you shared, it's kind of like, I felt came in really timely, right in view of actually what I was answering with my previous question. It was like just like really in line with that, and just kind of really just fell into it. And I felt like it just really provided a good example for people of what it might look like. That really actually, if you're trying to solve a problem, it's kind of like, I don't think people realize that a lot of the pain that we have, and it's I think difficult to realize that, is actually the area of issue is actually very small, but the armoring that happens around the area of pain, in order to try and protect it, that's massive. And so if you get, so it's actually really interesting. So when you start working on whether it's an emotional pain or whether it's a physical pain, it's actually all the same, or whether it's a belief that got created around that emotional pain or physical pain, it's really convoluted. And so you start working on the part of the body that's caught up, and like you can't get to the actual problem side because there's so much protection around it. So you have to actually deal with the protection first, or bypass the protection to actually even get to the real issue. But typically you can't go straight to the real issue. And even if you get to the real issue always happened because of a compromise that happened from a person trying to perform against their authenticity because they were afraid that they're not going to be socially accepted. The causes of injury is almost always, if you will, social comparison. Because, and most people don't realize why that is. But if we really think about it, it makes sense because social comparison, starts competition and comparison. And it's actually when social comparison comes in, that's actually when the concept of right and wrong comes in. But oftentimes the concept of right and wrong, doesn't get delineated for the particular activity that we're doing, but it gets taken in as your worth. Are you okay or are you not? Are you like, and that, so we at some point will push ourselves too much beyond actually what our joints naturally can take. A great example for me is actually parents hoping a better future for their kids and thinking that a child being able to actually walk sooner shows higher development. And so trying to help the kids stand for too long or stand sooner. And then actually the kids start standing or having to stand longer. And then it actually causes structural integrity issues. And the parents are meaning well, but the concept of just natural development and going at your own pace and being authentic with yourself is actually not valued. So, I have injuries from trying to get the splits. And it wasn't until I learned Tai Chi where that stopped being the goal. And actually the goal changed to what feels right to my body, what feels, good to me or authentic to me. And authenticity is actually nothing special. It just means that you are true to what you feel and what your needs are, and in that moment. So like being able to go with your breath, it's actually just becoming aware of your natural needs of your body. Is that area breathing or not? Is that area feel good or not? And then being able to go at that pace, being able to go at the pace of your enjoyment, not focusing on what's wrong with you, trying to fix that, but actually changing the focus to being, wow, it's like, where do I feel good and how do I want to feel and how do I want to move and how do I want to be? And so the question changes. And so I kind of just wanted to just, just kind of just bring that in view of the experience that you had where you can actually shift even more towards actually not trying to resolve anything, but actually just shifting your being or your orientation to just actually allowing yourself to be, where you don't have to go far, where that's not the point, where you just have to go to your own edge. We do want to find our own edge. Actually, we do. It's just we just don't want to follow someone else's edge of the limit. It is great to find out what our own limitations are. It's kind of interesting. Like once you find where your limitation are, there's a certain freedom that comes from knowing where your own limitation is, and that feels great. And so, but the issue is when you are going beyond your edge, which is actually injury. If you take a joint and you take it beyond its natural limitations, that's called a dislocation, right? So literally, that's the definition is self-evident just from how nature works. But anyways, so I just kind of wanted to just say that because it's kind of like when we follow someone else's edge, that's when the issue comes in. So
Thank you so much. Yeah, what you were saying about the social piece, I hadn't put that together. And as you were talking, I was having all of these images of being in gymnastics when I was 8, you know, and
Oh.
dancing, being in a dance company when I was 10, and like those experiences of trying to get the splits and mashing my back into a bridge, and you know, how far can we go? And yeah, I hadn't realized the social piece of it that was kind of the catalyst for pushing beyond the limit. So thank you. That's really helpful. It's a whole other piece to the puzzle.
Yeah. That was good, right? I mean, that's such a, thank you for sharing that. That's such a powerful sharing you just did, because, right, that's the standard is externalized. You don't get to feel your body and kind of just say, okay, where is the edge of my body? Okay, what feels, that wasn't the point. The point was, well,
Right.
can you get into splits? The performance. So naturally, your body is a second priority to performance. And now, is that what people are thinking that they're doing? No, of course not. But that's actually what happens. And so best intentions gone awry.
Thank you, Master Kim.
Welcome. That was great. Okay. I am done cleaning here, so I gotta scooch. Thank you for talking. Thank you. That was great sharing. Hopefully you'll be going towards a more holistic lifestyle where that you're changing your orientation of what you're cultivating instead of actually trying to fix something. Like when you change your life orientation, then it just naturally gets resolved, because then you take care of the whole ecosystem. So have fun cultivating today.
Thank you so much, Master Kim.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Master Kim.
Thank you, Master Kim.
Welcome. Bye.